Big things have small beginnings.
How far would you go to get what you came all this way for? What would you be willing to do?
Anything and everything.
Both drinking too, I'd imagine.
Here's mud in your eye, pal.
Hey, yo, welcome to episode 8 of In Madness Pod. It's Shawn the Butcher here with Vertebrae33.
Hello, everybody. How you doing? What's up, Shawn? How you doing today?
It's so good to be back talking about stuff in our lives before we crack the mic, getting ready to take care of business. When we crack the mic on, it's good. I like having this as a big source of entertainment for me for the week, and anyone who's been listening on the socials at In Madness Pod, at inmadnesspod@gmail.com. We got the YouTube page going now. So subscribe to the YouTube. We want to hear from you. Leave a comment, leave a like on any of our posts, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. If grandma and grandpa using the Facebook.
People still use the Facebooks?
Listen, man, a lot of people, yes, you'd be surprised. A lot of people still use the Facebook.
What about MySpace? Can we?
Yeah, right. I can't even remember my old MySpace.
No, I appreciate everybody tuning in. And this, it's weird to say because we were super excited about movies we've done already and ones that are coming in the future. And we keep saying it over and over again. But when we decided to do this podcast, movies like this one were one that I thought of almost immediately. I think you and I have talked about this movie a little bit back in the day, but never in this format. And we didn't, pre-discuss this at all. So I did get a couple well-placed texts from you, but not giving anything away.
No, yeah. Just my overall notes. I'm like, I have 8 pages of notes, and just so you know, the majority about them are probably about this.
So I guess we'll get into it. It's for Prometheus, 2012's Prometheus. I know we talked about how we were going to handle the alien universe, and we ultimately decided to start here and work our way through.
Chronologically is my favorite way to do things.
Yes. And obviously Alien itself is heavy lifting, and I didn't know if I had the chops yet for
that. Might be our first double episode if we get there, or maybe we'll have a double episode before that.
Absolutely. So this is director Ridley Scott's return to the Alien franchise. And if I have to say who Ridley Scott is to anyone, they probably should turn the podcast off. No, just kidding. We'll tell you anyway. But, Alien, Blade Runner, Gladiator, Kingdom of Heaven. The list goes on and on. Amazing. And he returns to the Alien universe after 30 years of being away from it. And he certainly wanted this. They set in for this to be kind of a prequel to Alien. And I think it kind of changed along the way. And we'll definitely discuss that on how this movie kind of changed from a prequel. But writer was John Spates, and Damon Lindelof, who was one of the writers of Lost, came into in the production designer Arthur Max. The creature visual effects designer is a legend in Neil Scanlon. So this movie is a ton of practical effects. Shawn's favorite practical effects.
That's
just
how
a lot.
It's the best. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of effects in the movie in general, but Ridley likes to do as much as he can in camera and then embellish as he goes on. So Neil Scanlon worked on Sin City, The Mist, and then a bunch of other movies like Labyrinth, and worked his way up till he was kind of, visual effects supervisor. And he went on to be that for Rogue One and all the movies in the Star Wars prequel series. So heavy hitter there. Soundtrack, Mark Streitenfeld, Robin Hood, The Grey. He recently did soundtrack for Raised by Wolves. I don't know if you've seen that TV series.
So no, but I have been watching lots of King of the Hill, and every time it's on Hulu, so every time there's a commercial, it's the same commercial over and over and over again. And one of the commercials is for the guys who make the theme songs for these shows. And Raised by Wolves is one of the shows featured on that theme song show. It's very cool. I want to check it out. I forgot the name.
Oh, wow. But yeah, Raised by Wolves is an incredible TV series. It got canceled by HBO Max, cost-cutting measures, but I would go on record as saying that it's probably the best science fiction television show of all time.
Damn.
I don't count Star Wars in that because that's fantasy, sci-fi fantasy. It's a different category, so I'm not slighting The Mandalorian, but incredible show. All right, so let's get in the cast really quick. It's Numi Rapace, I'm gonna say, is it Elizabeth Shaw.
Yep.
Logan Marshall Green, Charlie Holloway,
Ugh.
your buddy.
Ugh.
Michael Fassbender as David. Charlize Theron as Meredith Vickers. Idris Elba as Yannick.
Coolest.
And Guy Pearce in some crazy old man makeup as Peter Wyland. And there's a huge, before we even get it, just cue a couple production notes. There's a really long making of documentary called Furious Gods Making of Prometheus. I recommend anyone who's in this movie at all watch it. Directed by Charles D. Lazarica. I got to say that correctly.
Good Lord.
Yeah, he worked on the Alien anthology box set, Blade Runner Final Cut. He was kind of a guy who worked on these Blu-rays and DVDs with Ridley. And he made an amazing Blade Runner documentary called Dangerous Days, which we'll get into when we get to Blade Runner. So that documentary is like, it's longer than the movie. It's over 3 hours long.
Jeez.
So, but it's just chock full of just tons of gnarly bits. So I don't know if you want to head into the movie, and I can
ready to go.
Jump in. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, because I'm gonna have questions right off the bat. So
okay.
We see Earth from space. We're drifting through the clouds, beautiful, vast mountains. I'm guessing this is land before the time of man, correct?
Yes, and filmed in Iceland.
I was gonna say Iceland or Scotland. It looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Giant shadow in the sky. It's rolling through the canyons, and then it hovers above this massive waterfall. So we see a man with a cloak. He looks like a Jedi. I'm sure that you thought that as well. He's walking up to the waterfall, and we get a shot of his face. And he's human, but he's not human. He's massive. His features are sharp. His skin, he's like paper white. He places a half a sphere looking thing on the ground. It's like this little device. And he takes off his cloak, and he's cut. Schwarzenegger and Predator cut. 6-pack. He's got the pecs and everything, muscles, abs, the whole 9 yards. So he opens this sphere, and in it's this small cup. It's like an acidic looking substance. It's like fading away. It's moving around. It's gloopy. It's like this living organism. It's creepy as hell.
A lot of black goo in this movie.
Yeah, black goo is what it is, essentially. So this dude does what anyone would do, I guess, and just takes a shot of it, and he drinks this substance. So right as he drinks it, the ship, it fades away. It's kind of like, I'm getting the hell out of here. So within 3 seconds, he has a pain in his gut. He drops the cup in the river. His skin begins corrupting. You see his veins turning black through his like paper white skin. And then all of a sudden, his veins start collapsing in on itself. And we get this awesome shot of his like blood flowing through his body. It's turning black. It's traveling through. And then you see his DNA strands. They turn black. They snap in half. And then his like skin's blowing away in the wind.
Right. Dust in the wind.
Yeah. Parts of his body are missing. He lets out this loud ass scream, and he's leaning on his arm. I love this. This was nasty. It's always nasty. His arm snaps in half. So his body falls into the water. Okay. Once he hits the water, he turns entirely into ash and blends with the water. That begins making new DNA strands, eventually creating cells which begin to multiply. And then we get our title across the screen, Prometheus.
And the title is very much like how it was done the original opening credits to Alien, the way the letters are forming on the screen.
I didn't even think of that. Yes, they slowly appear.
And so let's jump into this really quick. We'll call him by his name because we're going to find out what his name is. He's what? What are
Wait,
they called?
what, the engineer?
Engineers,
'Cause
right?
he's the engineer. Oh, I didn't know if he had like a Bill, the
No,
engineer.
no, no, no. Oh, you were like, I was going down the animal path.
Yeah, does he have an alpaca name?
Yeah, he doesn't, but that is an actor in prosthetic makeup. So he's like 7'2", the guy who played him, and it's just freaky because there's just, rather than be a monster with tentacles, and we'll get plenty of those, it's just this weird, oversized, thicker human giant guy with, very white and totally ripped, like you said, does a lot of sit-ups. So he's sacrificing himself to seed what in the script says is planet Earth in 12,000 BC.
Okay, because one of my questions is, did they mean for this to happen?
Yes.
Was it an accident?
No. This is totally intentional.
So this dude knew that drinking this substance would like turn him into that and then blend with the water to create life. Okay.
Yes. And obviously the whole thing will be why have they done any of this? Why do they do this other awful experiment later on? I don't know if this is a good spot for it or not now, but I'd love to get into the At the Mountains of Madness Prometheus comparison list. Just
Go ahead.
We're going to ruin the entire movie. We're okay with ruining this movie?
Yeah. Let's go.
Okay. All right. So, we go deep. We're headed deep.
Okay.
We're going to ruin it for everybody. So obviously, huge influence on this podcast and a lot of the movies you saw is H.P. Lovecraft. The original Alien was influenced by Lovecraft as well, and we can get into that when we get to it. So he writes this book novella called At the Mountains of Madness, and it's written in 1931, and it's not published till 36. He also made a measly $315 off this book. So just remember that, when how many people have traipsed this ground over and over again. That's all he got. So if we just do a quick comparison to this movie and At the Mountains of Madness location is Antarctica. This is an alien planet, both hostile environments, inhospitable, the whole deal, right? There's a team of scientists for both. They both start out with a geological discovery. Then an underground cave is discovered. At one point in Mountains of Madness, they fly a plane over the mountains and they find this abandoned city of cubes and cones, which is a very alien human architecture. So we get that. And in this movie, we get the Ampule Room and other places like that with that kind of weird things going on. In Madness, it's the Elder Things. In this, it's the engineers. They both make something as a tool that backfires. In Madness, it's the Shgoths, and in this, it's that black goo. And in Madness, their relationship to the Shgoths is explained as they do kind of their work, and they can take on different forms and different forms of thinking. Even they both die at the hands of their creations. It is implied that the Elder Things made humanity. In this, we outright say it. And then there's survivors. In Madness, it's Dyer and Danforth, and in this, it's Shawn David. So we're following this pattern, and I say this just to kind of pick out other things in the movie you like, but there's certainly a structure here that comes from At the Mountains of Madness. And since this is the In Madness podcast, we can't let that.
I mean, it's all one thing. It all comes together. Yeah.
Right. And we can get into later on if we want about just how Lovecraftian, besides that structure, this movie is. Because there's sort of a lot of, for as much as many things as we don't know, there's a lot of explaining in this too. Sometimes it's a little menu-like.
Yeah.
But
I appreciate it because, like I said, I'm slow and I don't get the clear point of things as they go on.
Now everyone's going to tune out because they're going to be
like,
you just told us the entire movie.
No way.
You should have known it already.
If you haven't seen Prometheus, I mean, this show is fuel for you to go check out amazing movies. I got friends who were like, I didn't listen to Lighthouse because I never saw Lighthouse. It's like, you should go check out the movie and listen to the podcast.
And by the way, what you never asked is, do I have the Prometheus soundtrack on vinyl?
Yeah.
I do. I have it behind me. I also have Out at the Mountains of Madness on vinyl from Phenomenal Cadaver Records. Put it out, and it's this huge box set of that as well. So check them both out. The soundtrack is great. Great listen. Mondo, I think it's hard to find now, but years ago they put it out. All right, let's jump back in.
So we have the creation of man.
Yes.
Which you have now informed me was not an accident. So we cut to our archaeologists digging. They're in the Isle of Skye in Scotland. Shaw's looking around like she just uncovered something. They go and get Dr. Holloway. Ugh. Come quick. So he goes, he runs up to the mountains to this huge hole in the side of the mountain. They have found a 35,000-year-old painting inside of a cave. Clearly, Holloway does not seem all that impressed to me, which just makes me think he sucks. So Shaw moves her flashlight to show an image painted on the wall of a giant being pointing to the stars at what looks like, what is it, 6 dots, moons, planets?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now Holloway seems to care. It's the same configuration. It predates the others by a millennia. And then now Shaw thinks that they want to be found.
Right. And we're in Scotland. This is 2089 that this is taking place. But I will say, because let's get to Holloway real quick on something. He strikes me, and I'm going to stick up for him later on. But he strikes me as this really smart guy who's had just a lot of easy things happen for him. He's arrogant, and he comes across that way in a lot of ways. But he strikes me as somebody who he's super smart, but he just kind of falls ass backwards into discovery after discovery. And I think, his arrogance shows. But I think he gets not superhuman, but later on. And I'm going to explain that to you. He gets more human than he is right now.
More human than human?
More human than human.
I'll reserve my judgments on Holloway till later. So we cut to the ship in space. It's Prometheus, crew of 17, heading to an undisclosed location. Doors open, and here comes David, our robot.
And it's 2093. It's 4 years. It's 4 years later. And just for comparison, Alien was in 2122.
Okay.
So Ridley wants to make a prequel, but it's set pretty far in advance. But all right.
David, he's tending the ship while the humans are in hypersleep. He puts on this weird helmet. He goes over to Shaw's pod where she's asleep, and he gets to watch her dream. And she's dreaming about her dad, talking about her dead mom. She's asking where dead people go. Her dad says it's a beautiful place. And she's like, how the hell do you know?
Yeah, super creepy.
He goes, it's what I choose to believe. So then David's walking around the ship. He's checking if there's any response to their transmission. There's none. And I like this part where he's riding around on a bike with one hand while shooting a basketball. Yes. Which I wrote here in my notes is ironic because this whole movie he is dunking on people. I'll get into that later. So he's riding around spinning a ball on his finger. Do you like David already, or are you anti-David?
I mean, listen, they always make these androids have a certain personality to them. I do like David. I do think, though, I don't know if he's dunking on people. I think he might be a sad little boy, and we can get into that because his quote unquote dad kind of comes out swinging at him. But in the commentary, and we'll get into this later, but Ridley Scott refers to him as a robot, an android, and then just throws out replicant, which was like, okay, you just threw out a Blade Runner reference in your commentary. And is this the same universe? And we can go down that path later on. But yeah, I'm not hating David. I mean, I think certainly looking in on our dreams is pretty creepy.
Yes. He has parts that you shouldn't like about him. However, him beefing with Hathaway had me rooting for him this whole movie, even though he is clearly evil. But I won't ruin the entire thing yet. We cut to David. He's eating his strange-looking robot meal. He's
I don't know
learning.
why he's eating.
I mean, he's got it's fuel probably. I'm sure like he's got to run on something. Who knows? Who knows? I want to know what he's eating because it looks very interesting.
I want to get some of those props.
Yeah.
There's a lot of movie props in here. Like I want one of these coffee cups or one of these bowls or
He's learning another language. He's watching his favorite movie. I do not know the name of the movie he is watching. Do
Lawrence
you
of
know?
Arabia.
Ah.
So he's watching Lawrence Arabia and he's emulating Peter O'Toole in the movie, and they're doing the matchstick thing. Yep.
The trick is not minding that it hurts. And that dude in the movie has blonde hair. So David is watching the movie. He's bleaching his roots.
And that's the trick of the whole movie, by the way. I didn't mean to cut you off, but not minding. David is just going to keep moving forward with what he needs to do, much like Ash in the original Alien, no matter what, not minding.
And him and Ash do this similar thing because they both turn the monitor. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
whatever we're gonna do. He's combing his hair. He's reciting the lines to the movie to himself, and then the whole ship stops and the alarm starts going off. Destination threshold. He heads to the front of the ship. He opens up the hatch viewing window, and we see a planet. And already David looks stoked. He goes to get Ms. Vickers, but her pod is empty. He follows her wet footsteps to another room, and soaking wet Vickers is there doing push-ups.
Yeah, what a way to come out of hypersleep.
Hell
Boom.
yeah.
2 years of sleep, and I'm coming out doing push-ups.
She's not throwing up.
No.
She's got nothing, ready to go. One of my favorite characters, Vickers. She screams at David, "Robe!" Whoa, okay. Rough and tough already. He gets it for her. He informs her it's been 2 years, 4 months since they've been in hypersleep. And she asks if there were any casualties. And I don't know if he calls her mom or ma'am.
Yeah, I think it was ma'am.
Just his accent.
Yeah.
His robot accent.
Yeah, somebody let us know. Email us at
In Madness Pod on the socials. Either way, she hates him. She hates him. She's like, go wake everyone up.
Why is she there?
Vickers?
Why is she on this trip? Because
she'll be damned if somebody's flying around outer space looking for aliens while she sits in a boardroom. We'll get to that later. She's asked that. She's asked that later in the movie. But yeah. She wants to go on a trip too to outer space.
Yeah.
And maybe bang the pilot. Who knows?
Such a weird part.
Yeah. Shaw wakes up. She's puking everywhere. Poor Shaw. David is comforting her, letting her know her mind and body are in a state of shock. Everyone's eating breakfast. Vickers walking around, sizing everyone up. Meets the pilot. He's putting up the Christmas tree. She is not happy about this Christmas tree.
So is this a Christmas movie?
I mean, is it like the Die Hard question? Maybe. It's the only Christmas reference. I mean, no, there's one more later on.
Yeah, and then we get into the new year. We're starting the new year too. So I think it's through.
That's another one. Do you think Prometheus is a Christmas movie? On the socials at In Madness Pod. He says you need the holidays to know the time's still moving. She's already looking at him like she wants to bang him. Just saying. And then we meet our biologist who's trying to introduce himself to the redhead with the mohawk, Fifield. I didn't get the biologist's name. They say
that's Milburn.
Fifield doesn't want no part of Milburn.
No.
Then we cut to our mission briefing. Vickers is welcoming everybody to the ship, kind of letting everyone know that she's the boss. Sort of.
Momentarily.
Yeah. So then we cut to this 3D video, and here comes Wayland, the W of Wayland, the man, and all of represented in the alien universe.
The Wayland of Wayland Yutani.
Yeah.
Corporation.
This is our guy. He's their employer. he tells them he has recorded this video long ago and that he is already long dead. He introduces the crew to David, who is his son, the closest thing he'll ever have to a son. And Vickers looks pissed.
I mean, he says a beautiful thing to him, and then right afterwards, he just destroys him, and we get our heel turned by David at this moment, I think.
He is not human. He will never grow old. He will never die. And he does not have a soul.
Does not have a soul. He's also a weird thing, and maybe this helps you dislike Holloway even more, but only him and Holloway are wearing flip-flops in this meeting. I don't know why it threw me off. But they're the only two who came to the meeting in flip-flops. I don't know.
It's a relaxed atmosphere on the ship, I guess.
There's definitely some arrogance to Holloway, and there's an example of it right there. Come to your big meeting in flip-flops. This video, by the way, Ridley Scott says would have been filmed on Mars. So that's Wayland's place on Mars in the background.
Okay.
Video. And he's got that cute little dog with him.
Yeah, the little dog running around him. It's cool. It's a cool 3D projection. I like the way that was done. Up till that point, I really hadn't seen anything that cool before. But Wayland is always asked, where do we come from? What is our purpose? What happens when we die? He introduces Holloway and Shaw and says they're in charge. Vickers looks pissed again. She gets no respect on this ship whatsoever.
No.
He then tells us the story of Prometheus, which you, Vertebrae, educated us about on our episode of Lighthouse.
Right. So go back and listen to that, and you can get all the info you need.
It's about how Prometheus stole fire to give mankind equal footing with the gods, and he was cast out from Olympus. And Wayland says the time has come for his return. So Shaw and Holloway take over the floor. Holloway puts this little, it's the puzzle box from Hellraiser on the floor. He pushes
like a Rubik's Cube.
It's like a little, he pushes a cool little button, and it projects this big wall of images for everybody to see. And these are pictures of archaeological digs from all over the earth. Ancient civilizations separated by centuries, no contact with one another, but they all have the same picture that they found in the beginning of this giant being pointing at a series of stars. And the only system that matched was so far away, there was no way anyone could have known about them. But it turns out that system has a sun, and there seems to be a planet with a moon capable of sustaining life. And they just got there.
Yes, and the moon is LV-233. The original Alien movie, it was LV-426. So we know right away that it's not the same place that was the original Alien. I think as the script went along, it originally started out that it would be the same exact place. And we would sort of find out what happened to that ship in that movie and that space jockey. But this changed as the script went along, and they made it a completely different place.
So it's not okay. That was going to be my question at the end then. Okay.
Yeah. So they tell you right off the bat, LV-233, it says it on screen. So, and that's where this story goes from straight prequel to more of one of creation.
Okay.
And we want to get into our two big mysteries. Where are we from? And what's the deal with that space jockey that we saw in 1979 in Alien?
Yeah. Fifield isn't having it. He doesn't know why they're there. He's like, we're here because of a map you guys found in a cave. And she's like, it's not a map, it's an invitation. An invitation from whom? The engineers. And who did they engineer? They engineered us. Fife's like, bullshit. Biologist laughs. Like, do you have any proof to back it up? How do you know? And Shaw says, it's what I choose to believe.
Which is really interesting because her necklace, the cross, plays a big deal into this movie for her. So this idea of engineers seems to kind of not work with that at all. And I'm wondering if that's just a connection to her father, and that's why she has it, and she has her own beliefs.
What do you think? She also said at the end, where do they come from?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I guess so.
yeah, I think she's still, immortal after all. Somebody's got to be God at the end. Somebody. But after she says, "It's what I choose to believe," we zoom in on David's face because he remembers that line from her dream.
Yeah.
Then David brings Holloway and Shaw to Vickers because she wants to talk to them. Shaw finds a med pod and starts playing around with it. Vickers is like, "Could you please cut that out?
This is my private quarters. Stop touching stuff, kids.
Please." Shaw's like, "It gives bypass surgery. What do you need it for?" And Vickers is like,
Yeah.
Listen, I think you're confused about what's going on here. Wayland funded this mission, but I think your engineers are savages in caves. And if you do find them, you will not talk to them. You will do nothing until you report back to me." So slick ass Holloway wants to know if there's an agenda. And Vickers is like, "My company paid $1 trillion to get you here, and you didn't raise the money yourselves. So you're just our employees." So Shaw and Holloway are pissed. She's like, "Why?" Shaw's like, "Why'd you bother to bring us?" And Vickers says that Wayland was superstitious and wanted a true believer on board.
Yeah. And David is, while they're doing this, is pouring this incredible vodka.
Up.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to figure he makes the best one to a T.
I would think.
Cut to Holloway and Shaw. They're with David. There's still no response from their transmission. So Holloway is talking to David. "How are your lessons going, David? What is your problem? What is your problem?" David's like, "I spent 2 years deconstructing ancient languages to their roots, and I'm pretty confident I can communicate, provided your thesis is correct."
Well, I don't think Holloway trusts androids.
I mean, I guess, but like, relax a little bit. And then he's offended. "Provided it's correct?" Dave goes, "Yeah, that's why they call it a thesis." And he gets up and walks away. Slam dunk.
Right.
So Shaw's
Except David doesn't have any of the answers either.
No, but that was a good mic drop for him. He was
I feel like I'm coming across as a Holloway apologist, and I have to say, like, it really annoys me throughout the entire movie. So I don't mean to come across that way. I'm just giving a different viewpoint on
I
the
want to hear it
situation.
because I have so many pages hating Holloway.
I'm gonna find, if they have a figure of this, I'm gonna buy that for you.
Oh my God.
Or like there's got to be a poster, like a one sheet, which is
I'll put him in the microwave. Even when I see him as other characters in other movies now, I'm like, ugh, I hope something bad happens.
Oh geez. I saw somewhere there was a review and somebody called him like a dime store Tom Hardy. And I knew you would love that. Just so the only other text, because we don't talk about the stuff that you sent me, was I text you and said there's a lot, because in preparation for this movie I watched it 3 times. I read the Art of book while listening to the soundtrack on vinyl, watched Furious Gods, and then went into all the extras on the Blu-ray as well. And I said, wow, I think I texted you and just said there's a lot of stuff on here. And you said, I hope there's just hours of extras of Holloway getting killed in different ways. That's like all you said. And I was like, oh man, Shawn hates this guy. Hates this guy.
I mean, he makes it so easy to hate him. Shaw's laughing at Holloway. The captain lets everybody know that they're about to brace for entry. Everybody's got to buckle up. They see the atmosphere outside is like breathing through an exhaust pipe. 2 minutes without a suit and you're dead. So they enter the atmosphere. Holloway sees a valley with structures in it and tells the pilot to land over there because God does not build in straight lines.
And that, too, if we go back to Mountains of Madness, they talk about that architecture in there. So there's something else right there.
They land right near the structure. We see a straight line. It's like 5 or 6 silos, I guess you would call them. Holloway wants to suit up and go. Our pilot's like, there's only 6 hours of daylight left. And he's like, it's Christmas. I want to open up my presents.
See? Christmas movie.
That's the second Christmas reference. It's officially, I mean, don't you feel it needs like 3 Christmas references to be a Christmas movie? At least, I guess. You know what?
There's a New Year's reference.
Yeah, I guess. You're right.
There's certainly a very There's a baby Jesus in the movie,
Cute.
right?
I guess, yes, this is a Christmas movie, 100%. This and Die Hard. We gotta do Die Hard then. And then Holloway runs by, David, you boy, you're coming with us. I want to slap him in his face. Even David gets annoyed and he's like, I'd be delighted. So he's breaking David's balls. Why are you wearing a suit, dude? And he's like, I was built like this to make you more comfortable. If I didn't wear the suit, it would defeat the purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Holloway goes, making you guys pretty close, huh? David goes, not too close, I hope. Slam dunk. Because Holloway's a dick. Not even David wants to be like Holloway.
There's a buddy movie in there. The Holloway David.
Yeah.
There's a buddy movie. They like The Odd Couple.
Yeah, like the Rock and Samuel L. Jackson in Good Guys or Other Guys.
Holloway's always messy, and David's always putting foreign substances in his drink.
Yeah. Getting them sick. So they jump in the transport vehicle. They're heading to this structure. Fifield gets a reading on it. He says it's hollow inside. Structure kind of looks like a boob. Mm-hmm. It's just this big dome.
Right.
They enter the structure and Fifield sends, what is it? His pups or his pops?
Pups. Those are his pups.
His doggies.
Yeah.
They're these little floating balls and they map the entire structure for him.
He's miserable and he's unhappy when he's on the ship, but he gets really excited when he has, and these things are really cool, mapping out the whole place and solves that problem in movies of how you could keep track of a place you've never been to before. Pretty ingenious way to do that.
And it looks like a kind of a video game screen when you pause and got to look at the map and they show that inside the ship.
Yes.
And they're 3D screen printing, and like inside the Prometheus, they're using the mapping to find their way around this structure. So they enter this room with water and stalagmites, those big things coming out of the ground.
Is that stalagmites or stalactites? Which
one?
So
stalactites, T is top. Stalagmites is
there.
How I remember it. That's how I got through high school.
There it is.
Yeah, that's how I got through high school. That's a little trick I could teach you. The sunlight is heating the water, so outside it's toxic, but the air right there where they are in the structure is breathable. Something is creating an atmosphere cleaner than Earth.
Right. They're terraforming is what they say.
They were terraforming there. Do you know what the hell terraforming is?
I think it's creating a new environment for humans to live on.
Yes. I hear it so many times in movies. I didn't really know what it was. And then a Superman movie recently had terraforming in it. And it basically taught me kind of what terraforming was. But I felt the need. I had to look it up again, just so I could be sure. And yes, you are right. It is to transform a planet so as to resemble the Earth, especially so that it can support human life. That's
there you go. See?
Yeah.
But
I'm learning.
The most, I would say, unintelligent move of all of these scientists is, well, our dials, our switches say it's okay. Let's take our helmets off.
It's your man Holloway.
Yeah.
He's like, it's cleaner than Earth. Rips his helmet off, takes a deep breath in, and he's fine. So everyone takes their helmet
I have a
off.
theory that there's something else in the air that's starting to affect their brains, and that's why they start to make even worse choices kind of as they go along too.
Is it the color out of space?
Well, there is sparkly stuff in certain points here.
So they begin walking further into the structure. David finds writings imprinted on the wall along with some goo. I love goo.
Yeah.
He puts the goo on his fingers and he separates them, and it's like shimmering and glowing. And David is very impressed by this. He begins touching the writing on the wall like he knows what he's doing, and it sends a massive shriek through the entire structure. Everyone's freaking the hell out. And then it's like static. I guess it's like a static 3D image of these engineers running through our crew, like Ernie Hudson in Ghostbusters. It like runs through them. No one knows what's going on. Everyone's freaking out.
It's certainly a very cool plot device. I think David, though, figuring out how to just touch these inscriptions on the wall right away and do things is pretty wild. Like he's just hacking this wall almost immediately. There's no reaction from anyone that the wall's like lighting up as he touches it or nobody. Yeah, they just have their helmets off and they're having a big party and nobody's paying attention to that part.
Nobody's paying attention to the android.
Yeah.
We see a static image of one of these big engineers fall down and then the door come down and close. They walk over to the spot and there's the engineer laying on the floor with his head decapitated by the door.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, Holloway confides in David. Can you please read what's on the wall? Fifield's like, nah, I'm out of here. I'm a geologist. I love rocks. You love gigantic dead bodies. Since I have nothing to contribute in the gigantic dead body arena, I'm going back to the ship. He convinces the biologist to go back with him. Congrats on meeting your maker.
Yeah, two dopes that can't find their way back right away anyway.
And I did find it incredibly ironic that the mapping guy is the one who gets lost.
Yeah, where are the pups?
I mean, what are you doing?
Where are the pups? Maybe that's what's in the air. So we'll get to it.
They begin to carbon date the dead engineer on the floor. They say it's 2,000 years old. David begins touching the wall to open the door, and they're like, no. Then they notice. They're like, no, please wait, stop. And boom, he opens it up. And he goes, oops. Yeah, he goes, whoops, sorry. But he's not. He's not sorry at all. I 100%, okay. All of the research he was doing while they were in hypersleep, I think fully educated him to everything he needed to know. And he knew every single step he was going to take, like from the beginning. Like, yes. I feel like he knew that he was going to do everything. Yeah, I feel like he had it all figured out already.
And I do feel like, so if we take that one step further, I do feel like he wanted to play God himself, and we find that out in the later film. And that though on the surface he was looking like he was doing what Weiland needed and what they were doing, he had his ulterior motives throughout. And I think, if he was on the fence about it, that comment about no soul kind of pushes him over. And then he's looking at her dreams, and she has a soul and she has memories, and he doesn't have memories. And I think he's going to steer this thing in the direction it needs to go for himself.
And I'm kind of rooting for him. I root for the bad guy, I guess. I don't know. Definitely rooting for him over Holloway. The door opens, and laying on the other side of the door is the engineer's head that got decapitated by the door. And it's in an amazing state of preservation. So they decide to bring it back. David walks in and sees a giant statue of a head in the middle of the room that he says is remarkably human.
Right. And this is the ampule room, they call it when in production. So with these containers in
There's all these canisters all over the place. So they take a step and worms come out of the ground. And everyone's looking at the ceiling. There's a giant mural. And David notices that the canisters are sweating. And he goes to touch it. Shaw yells at him. She's like, stop, don't touch anything.
The canisters are sweating. And at this point, so am I.
Yeah.
I'm sweating as well.
Yeah, this is a scary room. There's nothing good can happen in this room.
And this is the most Giger looking space in the entire film. They kind of gotten away from the biomechanical in this movie. And this room is seems like a huge nod to Giger. He actually came on to the production, and he was there for a little bit during production time. And in the documentary, they show him, because I don't know if you know this, but Ridley Scott can, and I really dislike people like this because I'm an artist for a living, but he can also draw really, really well.
Okay.
And so he draws what they call Ridley-grams, which are essentially storyboards of the movie. And throughout this documentary, you see him drinking a lot of red wine and drawing a lot of these Ridley-grams. And they're amazing. They're so well done. But at one point in the documentary, he's just sitting with Giger at a table, and they're both just sketching. and it's like, my nerd meter just goes off the charts. What are they drawing?
We
What's
gotta
happening?
post if they have any of those. We gotta post them on
Yeah, I have to
at In
see.
Madness Pod.
Yeah, I have to see if they have any pictures of him. But apparently he did contribute about 30 or so drawings to the production. Ultimately, they weren't used. But there's definitely a nod to him in this room. And with the mural and with the other thing we're about to see as well.
So Holloway goes to the back of this room and he looks at the wall and he notices an image that's on the wall. And to me, it looks like it's like a crucified xenomorph.
Right. And that's what a lot of people thought, although we wouldn't be getting there yet with this. But who knows what these engineers know or don't know.
There's also this really big green jewel embedded in a rock that's not really explained at any other part of the movie.
No, not at all. And I've gone back and looked at that a bunch of times and tried to figure out if there was something in there, like Jurassic Park, if there's something in the amber.
An amulet, yeah. David goes over to another one of the canisters. He notices a black ooze molding and shifting, kind of like the substance in the beginning that our engineer took a shot of. The canister begins leaking this black ooze, which David touches and says, organic. The mural on the ceiling begins to change because they are affecting the atmosphere. They're ready to bail. They're bagging up the head. A storm is coming, a bad storm. The pilot informed... What's up?
They have just killed the seagull.
Yeah, by touching around, putzing with
the
stuff.
wind.
Yeah.
The winds have shifted. And
change the winds on us, you dog.
About to get bad.
The pilot informs the crew, bad storm coming. They're like, yeah, we need more time. And Vickers is like, that's nice. I'm closing the doors in 10 minutes, so you better hurry up. Holloway gets bummed. He's like, this room is just another tomb. He's super upset. He's butthurt. Poor Holloway. Dave is there. He's freezing the canister. He throws it into a bag, and the black ooze is on the ground, and the worms that came out of the dirt are swimming around in this black ooze.
Mm-hmm.
So the crew hops in the buggies. They're racing back to the ship. The storm is chasing after them. It's all tense. It's crescendoing. The music is crazy. They get to the ship, and Shaw drops the head. She goes out to get it and then gets blown away in the storm. Holloway goes out to get her. The buggy flies away. But him and Shaw, they're holding on to each other, and David comes out to save the day. He brings them back safely, gives them the okay sign. It's all going to be all right. And Holloway's there yelling at Shaw, you could have gotten yourself killed, compromised the mission. And David's like, are you all right, Dr. Shaw? And she's like, yes, thank you, David. Slam dunk.
Yeah, and all for David's plan. He's working all of them in this.
He is. He's working everybody. The pilot asks, where's Fifield and Thorburn? They're still in the structure. They're still in the cave. The pilot tells them they're stuck there till the storm passes. So the dudes are pissed. Back on the ship, Shaw is inspecting the head, and they realize it's got a helmet on.
Mm-hmm.
So David figures out how to take it off. And there it is, the engineer's head, like the same face we saw in the beginning of this movie.
And I have to say, so the first time you're seeing this movie, and all these years we've been sitting with the space jockey. And I think this is a part in the movie where some people were unhappy with it because they just figured that's what it looked like and that it wasn't a suit with a giant man inside of it. It didn't bother me when I saw it. It certainly threw me because for 30 years, you think it's this creature.
And it's much bigger in Alien.
I would think so. Yeah.
It's massive in Alien. And in this, it's just like 7 foot, whatever you said.
Yeah, he's 7'2". I mean, I think they plus him up a little with some camera tricks and things there, but yeah,
I didn't mind it.
Huge.
I didn't mind it.
You didn't mind it? Yeah, I was wondering what you thought of it.
I thought it would be, I don't know. I thought it would be like an alien. Like, I don't know. I was just waiting for an alien. Like, I was just waiting for something. I didn't know it would be that same dude, but I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it because so much of the movie was so entertaining and so much fun. Like, none of it really bothered me.
Right. And
especially one of the moments that changed my life forever.
But this is certainly something that people, because they built it up so far in their minds over 30 years. What is this thing? What's going on? What's the story behind the space jockey? And it threw me, but I have to say I didn't dislike it. I find the big dude, the engineer, almost a little creepier than some of the tentacled monsters because we've seen so many of them. It's just this massive human, and kind of with dead eyes when they're looking at you. So yeah.
So you see this head, and there's like these new cells forming on its head. And they try to trick the nervous system into being alive. So they stick this thing in its neck and they're beefing up the pressure. The eyes start to open up and move around. But then the head starts to bleed this like black ooze.
All practical effects on this, by the way, right here.
So cool. The head starts pulsating. They put it into containment. And boom, like, what is it? Scanners?
Mm-hmm.
Boom! The head explodes. Green goo grows. So cool. So cool.
And so let's check in though. Let's get a Holloway check. So what is he doing?
Well, when the head explodes, David goes, "Mortal after all."
Mm-hmm.
Slam dunk.
So what Holloway's doing is drinking during this scene.
So Holloway, he's got a big bottle of champagne.
Yeah, this is where he's completely devastated and bummed out about why they came there. And this is where I would forgive any other actions later on because he's just completely drunk the rest of the time. And he's had his life's work kind of pulled out from underneath him. And he's not thinking straight. He's not around for in that normal capacity for much longer. But
he takes his bottle and he leaves. He's very pissed off. Him and his flip-flops. They leave the room. Shaw takes a DNA sample of the exploded head. We cut to David. He's in a secure room with his weird little helmet on, and he's talking to somebody in the helmet saying, "No, sir, I'll take care of it. Yes, sir. Understood. I'm sorry. Of course, sir." He ends his call. He takes off his helmet. He opens the door to leave, and there's Vickers at the end of the hallway waiting for him.
And is that a pod? Is that a sleeping pod that he's standing over, that yellow thing? Because he
I don't
kind of
know.
touches it at the end.
With that weird helmet thing he's got
Is that
on?
where the reveal is later on? Is that where he's sleeping? Is he in there?
Oh, you know what? It could be. It probably is. He's in that. Yeah, maybe.
Just getting a ton of oxygen and just being able to make it on, at his age, whatever age he is, 90 something years old, probably.
He's got the money to stay alive. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Vickers is like, "What did he say, David?" "Well, I don't think he'd want me to tell you." So she grabs him, slams him against the walls. "I will find the cord that makes you run and I will cut it." "What did he say?" "Try harder." So
Sibling rivalry.
Yeah. She shoves his face. She walks off. So David grabs this frozen canister that he took out of the structure. At the same time, Shaw is checking the DNA that she got from the exploded head, and it is human DNA.
Mm-hmm.
It's us. It is everything. Then David takes this gross-looking green thing covered in this black goop out of the canister. I love the look of it. It's so friggin' cool. He turns it upside down, and you see this like substance floating around inside the green things.
It's amazing how quickly David figures all of this out. I have a harder time with like packaging when I get something in a whole bunch of packaging.
Can't even open a CD from the plastic. Yeah.
And he just gets it open, and there's these weird Coca-Cola bottles, green Coca-Cola bottles in there or something.
He snaps it open, right? And I love this part. Like he puts a small bit on his finger, and then you see this tiny dot on his finger. It's all this like dark snow floating around in it. And I love that you zoom in on his fingertip and you see the W Wayland logo on his fingertip. Yeah. So cool.
So cool.
And then David with our awesome line, "Man, big things have small beginnings." So evil, his delivery on that.
And now he's about to take advantage of poor Holloway, whose life's dreams have been crushed.
Poor Holloway. He brings him a bottle of booze. And he's got his finger stretched outward. like when you're about to stink palm someone.
It's not subtle at all, right? It's
No, and even when he hands it to him, he does it in front of his face.
He's like, dunk.
He Holloway's like, pour yourself a drink, and he's like, oh, I forgot, you're not a real boy. What a piece of shit. I get it. You're drunk. You're sad. Whatever. He seems to caringly ask David, do you think we wasted our time here? And he goes, that's all depends on what you hoped to achieve. It's like we wanted to meet the engineers to get answers, to know why they made us in the first place. So David's like, why do you think your people made me? And smart ass Holloway, because we could. Pretentious dick. So then he's throwing this ball around. So David scoops up the ball and he goes, imagine how disappointing it'd be for your engineers to say the same thing about you. And Holloway's like, well, I guess it's good you can't feel disappointed. But David is. He hates Holloway. You can tell. They're not friendly by any means.
Not at all. And I certainly think he may even like Shaw a little bit too. He's tapping into her dreams, and we don't see him, although it's a quick scene, we don't see him do that with anyone else. He certainly could be using that for his own purposes, but he may kind of like her a little bit. And maybe he thinks, maybe he thinks your buddy Holloway is not the right man for her.
I don't think he's the right man. I think Shaw has horrible taste in men. We'll get to that.
They definitely met. They had to have met in college.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, there weren't too many other archaeologists that Shaw could find her love in.
He's the only one climbing the side of the mountain in flip flops.
Being a smart ass. He asks Holloway, how far would you go to get what you came all the way here for? And he goes, anything and everything. So David goes, worth drinking to, I'd imagine. Pours a drink for Holloway, dips his finger right in, hands it to Holloway, and Holloway goes, here's mud in your eye, pal.
And a clear allusion to the eyeball.
Just you wait about eyeballs, pal.
Next time we hang out, I'm going to just dip my finger in your drink as I hand it to you. Just bloop.
I'm just like, do you know the day and age we're living in right now? Get that shit out of here.
Yeah, even without the black goo, I don't want that drink.
He shoots back the drink, and David goes, good health. Slam dunk. He just dunking all over Holloway in this movie. So then we come back to Fifield and Thorburn, I think, in the structure. Milburn. Milburn. I'm going to write it down. Milburn. Well, I don't have to write it down because I'm not going to be using it much longer. Fife and Milburn, they're in the structure. They happen themselves upon a huge pile of corpses of these engineers who all look like they were running from something. And it also looks like something exploded outward from inside of them. Yeah. So then we got our pilot sitting there, Idris Elba. What's his name? I don't remember. Yannick. He's sitting there playing his accordion. There's this dinging going off from the map he has on his ship from the 3G. Yannick. I think it's Yannick. He messages Fife and Milburn while they're looking at this stack of dead bodies, and the feedback scares the shit out of him. He's like, he's like, I got a ping about 1 click west of where you are, and they start freaking out. What do you mean a ping? He's like, whatever it is, it's not dead. It's a life form. So these dudes are freaking the hell out. What do you mean a life form? Is it moving? He's like, nope, it's just been going in and out since the storm hit. Bad signal. Is it still moving? Nope. It just disappeared. Must be a glitch. Try not to bugger each other. And that's it.
Yeah, good luck, fellas.
Good luck. Have a good night. But then he looks at their cameras and he sees them looking at these pile of dead bodies, and he looks a tad concerned. They're like, the life form is west, so let's go east. And they walk away, and I love it. Milburn's like, pings and glitches and life forms. What the fuck? I laughed out loud in the theater when I saw that. So good.
Oh, wait. So did you saw this in the theater?
Yeah, hell yeah. Hell
Okay.
yeah. Hell yeah. And then immediately bought it on DVD. And then I remember when I was getting my Godzilla leg tattoo, it was like 8 hours in the chair one day. So I did Prometheus and then Alien back to back, watching them while I was getting tattooed.
Oh wow, nice. Yeah, I did not see it in the theater. That'll be a running theme. You'll see it in the theater, and I'll have not. I did see it on Blu-ray. I bought the 3D Blu-ray because I had at the time I had a 3D television, and watched it on there, and it was cool. I don't think the 3D was fine. There wasn't anything that was amazing. It was that 3D depth kind of thing, which is okay.
It's all right.
It's all right. It's fine. There wasn't anything that came out into my living room, so that was kind of a bummer.
Like Jaws 3D.
Yeah. Yeah, give me something that pops all the way out into the living room, but nothing.
Here we go. I'm getting into my favorite part where you could defend your buddy here.
Oh, I think I'm done defending him.
Oh, well, come on. We're getting to the best part, my coup de grace. I've been waiting.
No, because this whole move with the it's annoying. Yes.
Shaw's making notes to herself. She's trying to find out what made the head explode. She's wondering, was there an outbreak here? Holloway's punk ass walks in the room. He's got the rose. He's got a bottle of champagne. He was going to give it to Shaw when they found what they came here for. And she's like, we did find what they came here for. The engineers were there. And Holloway's like, I know this is the most significant event in the history of mankind. But he's still being a dick. He wanted to talk to them. He wanted to know why they abandoned us. He wants answers. Damn it. He's Holloway, the smartass. Shaw's like, they were right. And she has proof. Their genetic material predates humans. We come from them. So now Holloway's convinced. He's like, oh, okay. And then just becomes the world's biggest, iconic, massive, unbelievable, awful piece of crap. I cannot wait for them to kill this dude off. He goes, I guess you could take your father's cross off now because they made us.
Yes.
Ugh.
I mean, I'm out. I told you before, I'm out on the Holloway defense. This scene is awkward, and I think we just want to make sure that we're not sympathetic to him in any way, shape, or form anymore, if we were at all.
She goes, who made them? He's like, we'll never know. But what we do know is that there's nothing special about creation of life. Anyone can do it. All you need is a dash of DNA and a half a brain. So Shaw begins crying. Why? Because she can't create life.
Yeah.
Fucking Holloway, dude.
Yeah. Awful.
This is your girl. Yeah. You've been with her forever. Don't you know about this information already? Why in the hell would you say something so stupid?
Yes, so mean, so hurtful. He's full on spoiled brat mode, just lashing out. Yeah, just awful. No defense. My previous Holloway defense in those other situations were different.
Get Judge Judy. Get Judge Judy.
100% guilty.
Where's my gavel?
Sean's going to take him out.
Where's my gavel? I don't have a gavel.
You don't have a gavel. Do you have a gavel?
The chainsaw. I got the chainsaw gavel.
Oh my God. He got the chainsaw. He gets the chainsaw. He's done.
Ugh. He then realizes he's screwed up. He comforts Shaw, tells her she's special. He loves her. And then they get to banging. She has horrible taste in men. Holloway's the worst. He says this, and then she bangs him. Why? I don't know. Vickers comes into the control room. She goes to touch the map, the 3D tracker, and there's Yannick, and he screeches the accordion, scares Vickers. She's annoyed by the accordion. And he's like, if you want to get laid, just say I'm trying to get laid.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, if I want to get laid, why would I fly 500 million miles away from every man on the planet? And he goes, Vickers, are you a robot? And she's like, my room, 10 minutes. Slam dunk. Way to go, Vickers.
We don't get an answer from her, by the way.
I mean, that's the implication.
I wonder, though, because she was already up and out of the pod and doing push-ups.
Oh, so you think she still might be a robot, but just a robot who has sex?
Maybe, or
Mm.
maybe, yeah.
You think David's banging things too?
I
You
mean,
think David's treating the Prometheus ship like the lighthouse while everyone's in hypersleep and just jerking it all over the ship?
that's just a completely different film. That's a completely different film. But I wonder. There's a part of me that thought she could be. I'm going to say it, a replicant as well, because I like calling them replicants because it's very geeky to connect this to Blade Runner in any way, shape, or form. But I don't know. He eats. He, is exercising, I guess. I don't know. It's interesting.
When she saw the Christmas tree, she did say, "What the hell is that?" And I mean, like, it's very clear that it's a Christmas tree. Maybe it wasn't in her programming and she didn't know what it was for real.
Yeah. I mean, they're not given memories like replicants are in Blade Runner. So maybe, I don't know. I don't know. She's certainly not physically afraid of him when she smushes his face against the wall.
No, yeah, yeah. I'm sure she thinks she could kick David's ass. Maybe she might be. You're right. She doesn't answer. She doesn't answer. That's very interesting.
Maybe they just go off and then she shows him, peels some
Her,
skin back and it's just
yeah,
a bunch
yeah,
of
like
circuits.
Terminator. Yeah, she rips her arm off and shows the hand. Yeah. Then we cut to Fifield and Milburn. They're in the tomb room with all the canisters that were leaking all over the place. My man Fife is coughing, and Milburn's like, "Is that tobacco in your suit? Is that tobacco?" And Fife's like, "Sure, tobacco," and blows a huge puff of smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His
I'm a represent for Fifield. Yeah.
Fife dog is in his helmet having a good time.
Smoking dope on another planet. That is intergalactical awesomeness right there. He blows smoke. The guys share a laugh. Something begins moving through the black goo in the floor, and this snake creature emerges from the goo. Am I led to believe that these are the worms that were in the goo earlier?
I would think so. They call these hammerpedes, like a centipede with like a big hammer type head, I guess.
Very Geiger-esque, I thought.
Yeah, Giger.
Giger, very Giger-esque.
I'm going to correct you if you get that
Every
wrong.
time. I'm probably going to mess it up a lot.
There's a lot of people who say it incorrectly, by the way. I
would
heard
be one.
somebody on a podcast the other day say Giger.
Giger, wow.
And I was like, whoa, where are we headed right now?
Fifield freaks out, but Milburn is intrigued. He goes to touch it, and then another one of these things pops up. And it grabs him by the arm, breaks his arm. Fifield cuts it off. It sprays acid all over his mask. He falls into the goo. He gets up. The helmet collapses in and melts into his face. I remember that part was in the trailer.
Mhm.
And when it happened in the trailer, I was like, booyah, that is frigging awesome.
And I want to say this right now because you have a lot of dislike for Holloway. I have a lot of dislike for Milburn, the world's worst biologist. They're on a different
just goes
planet.
up and touches a rattlesnake,
And he's just
cute.
like, "Oh, hey, cutie!" Like, "Oh, what are you doing?" Like he thinks he can charm it. I don't even know what's going on. Yeah, awful
idiot.
decision. That was. There's a whole bunch of that filming of that scene on the documentary, which just is amazing. How much of it is a mix of practical and CG and jumping back and forth to get what they needed. It's pretty cool.
So then this worm thing goes into the hole in Milburn's suit. It creeps into his helmet and all the way down his throat. Nobody sees this happen because Yannick is banging away on possibly robot Vickers. So then we cut to Jackass Holloway wakes up and he goes to his bathroom mirror and his eyes are red like he was up drinking and smoking all night. Or banging. He's got scratches all over his body. Shaw is no joke in the sack. Oh, mom's calling. Sorry, mom. Holloway looks in the mirror and a strand reaches out of his eyeball.
Oh,
It sucks itself back in. He freaks out, but he does not say a word to Shaw. Captain messages the crew. He says, Fifield and Milburn are missing. They're gonna go, check them out, go look for them. But you guys got to fix the glitch. And David, right there, he's like, "What glitch?"
Mm-hmm.
He's like, Captain says it picked up a life form, but it's a glitch. Yeah, nobody's checking this out like closer. David volunteers to go fix it. Looks at Holloway and goes, "Be careful, Doctor." Slam dunk. Love David. I am rooting for David this whole, even though he's the bastard. So they race to the structure. They're looking for Fife and Milburn. David's driving around the structure looking for the pup. And Victor tells David to Vickers tells David to upload his feed to her room, and he does. So he walks down the corridor, he finds the pup, and sitting at the door that's closed, David opens it, and the pup flies in and begins mapping this gigantic room. This whole room is full of those canisters, like urns. They're like big, slender urns, loaded everywhere, like a missile silo. It's just loaded up, like Punisher's arsenal. David then opens up another door. We find another room with a massive structure in it, and David turns off the camera.
Yeah,
Vickers is pissed. He cut me off.
And why? Can we get into it? What? These are weapons.
I mean, it got out. It turned against him. The end. Yeah. So I don't. What it. They know something's up with it. I'm trying to figure out. They know they have this thing, and it can do. I mean, they fed it to that dude. They created human life. They know what it can do, but like using it as a weapon, like to what, turn everybody into xenomorphs? Like I don't know. Like what?
I took it as they created life, and this is their kill switch.
Like this is how they're going to kill everybody.
Yes, so they just can create life, have it live for a while on certain planets, and then just take them out.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know how it would kill people. I didn't know what their end game was, to kill everybody. But like, what does the goo do? It just makes everybody's head explode.
I mean, not necessarily.
Or will it create aliens that will then a new species will take over the earth?
But we do get that. We do get, and we'll go through that life cycle when we pass a
yeah.
We do kind of get that. So I don't know if they knew what they were, knew where it would end up, but it certainly feels like they were about to, wipe out civilizations that they created. Maybe they're done with them. Maybe they're just finished with, not just the human race. Maybe on other planets, there's other types of animals and creatures that they created. Maybe they do this periodically when civilizations get too out of control. They just wipe them out. I mean, maybe maybe they're coming to visit now. That's what all that stuff in the sky is about. Maybe
you never know.
It's about to go down.
It's going to land in Antarctica.
If a bunch of black goo comes out of one of those balloons,
I'm out of there. I'm out. Don't drink it. Then we got our crew on the other side of the structure. Holloway collapses. Shawn notices that Holloway is sick. The crew notices all of the canisters now have the black ooze leaking out of them. And they find Milburn. No Fifield. Holloway is now on the ground. His skin is blue. His eyes are red like Darth Maul. And Shaw says, "We have to go now. Holloway is sick." In my head, I go, who cares? They turn Milburn over, and the worm jumps out of his mouth, and then it disappears into the goo.
Which, when they filmed that, I guess they didn't tell the actors that something was going to jump out of there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they rolled it over and then just had that pop out and got their natural reactions to it.
That's funny. They want to bring Holloway back to the ship. They tell Vickers to get the ship ready. They're bringing back Holloway. He's sick. Sick with what? They don't tell her. She's like, nah. Back to David in the new chamber, and he finds this massive chair. I mean, the chair looks like a huge vagina. Let's just say it. He sits in it.
If it's a Giger artwork, it was usually penises or vaginas. Was
Yes,
a lot of
100%. The second it turned around, I was like, "That's a Giger thing," but I said his name wrong when I said it.
Oh, he said Geiger. It's okay.
Then we get another holographic 3D image. It's of these engineers walking into that room, sitting in their own chairs all around the room, and they bring up this map of the universe. It's in the middle of this massive structure in this room. And David is watching all of this happen. He walks into the middle of the structure, standing in the middle of this projected image of, I guess, the universe. And a small handheld Earth comes into his hand, and he grabs it. And I guess this is him having the whole world in his hands, literally. It all shuts down. The images disappear, and the room is silent. And then one pod illuminates. Inside of it, we have an engineer. And David walks over to the pod, puts his ear to it, and hears a heartbeat. Oh, man, one of them is alive.
Yeah, here we go. And I wonder at this point if David is excited because of what he needs to do for his job or for what he wants to do for his own plan.
100% his own plan. He is devious. We cut to the team hauling ass back to Prometheus. Holloway is screaming. His skin is corrupting like our engineer in the beginning. The black substance, you see it creeping up his neck and all in his face, and his face is like pulsating. Super sick.
Mm-hmm.
They arrive at the ship, and there's Vickers with a flamethrower. He's not coming on board. Everybody but Holloway back on the ship. And I'm like, yeah, Vickers. Holloway tells Shaw he loves her. Walks right up to Vickers with his arms open. He's like, do it. She lights his ass up. He collapses on the floor on fire. Shaw's crying on the floor, losing her mind. Everything fades. He's dead. Thank God.
He was the hero in the end. He didn't want to get on the ship like that.
I mean, whatever.
I'm just trying to get you riled up about
This guy, Holloway. You kidding me?
it.
Shaw needs her a new man, a new engineer man. So we cut the Shaw passed out in the middle of the table. David's reaching around her neck to take her cross off. She wakes up. She grabs him. She tells him everyone needs to be tested. Everyone may be infected. He understands. He puts the cross in a little bottle. He's like, have you and Holloway had any intimate contact lately?
Mm.
And then he tells her that she's pregnant.
Brutal.
I thought she couldn't create life. Stupid Holloway. What? How? What is this? 3 months pregnant? That's impossible. She had intercourse 10 hours ago. There's no way she is 3 months pregnant. David goes, it's not exactly a traditional fetus.
Mm.
She freaks out. She wants to see it. She wants to get it out of her. David's like, we'll freeze you and we'll take care of it when we get back to Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So when he turns, she wants to see the screen, and I guess the fetus is on the screen. He moves it, and in Alien, Ash is looking at it, and Ripley goes, or like right when Ripley walks in, he turns off like the monitor or whatever, so she can't see what's on there. It's super like,
yeah.
Shaw is definitely our Ripley, and David is definitely our Ash.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I saw it.
Yeah, and I think Ridley wanted to play with that a little bit and flip it around where he could.
So Shaw's freaking out. She wants to see it. She wants to get this thing out of her body. And he's like, we'll take care of it when we get back to Earth. Dopes her up, hits her with the needle, and lays her out on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, do you feel like your God abandoned you? Mm-hmm. Becoming a real scumbag. Since Holloway died like your dad of Ebola. She's like, how the hell do you know? I watched your dreams.
Yeah.
Creepy. And then he's out.
He's in deep.
So Shaw passes out. All right, it's coming. Cut to her getting slapped in the face by, I believe it's the mother from The Witch, right?
Yes.
Time to go Betty buys. They're slapping her, making sure she's knocked out. She's doped up. They go to grab her, put her in the freezer, and she wakes up and starts whooping ass and runs the hell out of the room already in horrible pain.
Mm-hmm.
She's running around the ship. She goes to Vickers' med pod.
Mm.
And now we have our milking of the alpacas moment.
You should cut in like that. You should record that.
This is where, as we like to call it in any movie, thanks to Color Out of Space, where the shit hits the fan.
Right. This is our chest burster scene.
She sets the pod for a C-section, but it's a male pod.
Which is crazy, by the way. Isn't that Vickers' pod?
It's a Vickers room. Somebody messed up something.
Yeah. She got the wrong one.
So instead, she puts in abdominal surgery. This was like the Barbarian thing, where the thing happens and maybe you might not be all in, but after this, you're like, I am all in. This was some of the gnarliest crap I've ever seen in a movie in my life.
Right. So she goes in the pod.
Shaw gets in the pod and her stomach starts bulging out.
Yeah.
It is so gross. She's screaming. She's panicking. The machine sprays her with the anesthesia. Her stomach is still bulging. And then these lasers cut the bottom of her stomach open.
Mm-hmm.
She is screaming. She is selling it. She is overselling it. It's perfect. It's perfect. And then this other machine with arms spreads open the incision. More horrible agony she's going through.
Mm-hmm.
And then a claw machine, the little claw machine hand comes down. It picks it up. And then there's this disgusting sack. It's the claw machine.
It's just so this horrific scene that I've seen 100 times, which I kind of every time bothers me a little bit. Now maybe it won't, because now I'm picturing like, oh, I was trying to get that fuzzy.
What this claw machine won was a disgusting sack with an organism in it, and this is Shaw and Holloway's baby.
Right, and this is the trilobite. Is
that what it's called? Okay.
And what's amazing is when they film this scene, a lot of what's happening with her stomach, apparently she was also a really good, like, kind of belly dancer.
Oh my God.
So she's doing some of that herself. They're embellishing. And then they built that trilobite so it's cable operated, so it's writhing around, and they even say, like, even that when they're filming that a few days on set, it was just a lot for everybody in general. Pretty intense scene. And this is definitely Ridley's next crack at the chest burster scene from Alien, for sure.
Trip me out. Still trips me out every time. This is like, it's my bathroom break. When it starts happening, I'm like, I'm gonna go pee while this is happening.
Yeah, except you said the claw machine, so that's now what I
yeah.
Man. Like,
so inside this sack, it opens and explodes, and all the liquid in the sack, her wound is still open, and all of it goes back into the wound.
And they filmed that, so they wrapped up this trilobite that they made for that bursting scene, and they put it inside a condom and like filled it with fluid and everything, so they had it, so it was like just one little, and they took it out, but there's just like a pinprick that goes on the side, and that's what like explodes that. So a lot of practical effects, but awful
into the open wound, like so gross.
Yeah.
And the trilobite, it's like this octopus looking creature, and it's flailing around.
And has seven tentacles instead of 8.
And she grabs the umbilical cord by her hand and rips it out of her stomach.
Yeah.
The machine staples her back up. She slips out of the pod. She locks the pod with this trilobite octopus thing inside of it. We cut to our captain.
And she's our hero, by the way. I stubbed my toe and I'm down on the floor for a few minutes.
I don't know. The pain that she went through and the shit that she does for the duration of this movie. You're like,
Yes.
no way.
Yes.
No way. I would be crying.
Yeah.
Crying. I would have probably, I don't even know if I would have been able to go through the surgery.
No, I don't think so.
Yannick, our captain, says Fifield's camera just popped up outside the ship. They open the door and there's Fifield, but he is curled over backwards like a scorpion. He gets up, but it's Fife, but he's deformed and he's got gorilla strength. He starts killing these dudes left and right. I love it. He jumps on this one dude on his stomach, and when he lands on his stomach, the dude spits out blood into his helmet. And then Fifield, like a gorilla, like double fist smashes this guy's face in. So sick.
By the way, there's supposed to be 17 people on this crew, but it feels like so many more. There's a lot of random dudes in the background.
Yeah, those are the dudes that Vickers hired.
Yeah, but it feels like I try to count in that scene where they're in the room to see how many people there. I think I got up to like 15.
They're like stormtroopers.
Yeah, they're just kind of just random guys working switches in the background.
They're trying to light him on fire, but Fife is just whooping everybody's ass. But then they run him over with the space car, and then they set him ablaze. And then we got Shaw stumbling around the ship. She just got back from her surgery. She's covered in blood. Opens a random door, and there's David. He looks at Shaw stunned. He's like, ugh, she did it. She took it out of her. And then there we see Wayland. He's alive.
Mm-hmm.
He's been in hypersleep the entire time.
And this is where David kind of has to pretend that he still cares about Wayland, because I'm sure his mind is on that baby and what happened with that. And he's going to move forward with Wayland, but he's really wanting to know what happened with the experiment that he made happen.
That was like his baby.
Yes.
That was his baby.
Yes.
Yeah. So Wayland only has a few days left to live. He wants to meet his maker. Shaw's like, they're all gone. And David's like, no, they're not. There's one alive, and we're about to go see him. And Wayland says, if they made us, surely they can save us. Or save me.
Mm-hmm.
Save you from what? Death, of course. This old bastard.
Yeah,
only cares about himself.
He's like 1,000. He's like 1,000 years old. I think this is a good time. I'll jump in real quick. I alluded to it. There's a lot of people who talk about Blade Runner connections to this movie, and Ridley certainly said things to lead people maybe on a wild goose chase. But in the DVD extra from '99, there's a thing called a Nostromo dossier. And it says in there that Dallas took a paycheck from the Tyrell Corporation, which was the corporation made the replicants in Blade Runner. And on this Prometheus Blu-ray, there's the Wayland files. And there's a document in there that Wayland is talking about his mentor / competitor, Tyrell, who made mistakes by implanting false memories in his creations. And I think that implication is that he would have given them a soul by having these false memories. And then he states in this movie, right, that David does not have a soul. Both of them, obviously ended up with bad results. And I think David continues to want to create. If he can't move backwards into a past, he wants to move forward and create and maybe get a soul from that. But I certainly think Blade Runner took place in 2019. So we flash forward, you do some math. Probably Wayland is, he's probably in his mid to late 90s at this point. He needs machines to attach to his body to be able to walk. But yeah, just a kind of a cool little connection for people. If there's an actual Blade Runner connection, these guys, he may have been Wayland's mentor.
Very interesting. I did not know any of this.
Sean's like, God, he's a nerd.
Blade Runner. I can't wait till we dip into Blade Runner because I know you love Blade Runner, and I think I've seen it once and I don't even remember it. So we'll get into that soon, I'm sure. Shaw's telling them this place is not what they thought it was, and the engineers are not who they thought they were. She was wrong. They were wrong. Holloway is dead. We have to leave. Who cares, Shaw? Who cares? Wayland says, what would Holloway do that they were so close to getting the answers to our questions? How can we leave? And then he goes, or have you lost your faith, Shaw? Now he's slam dunking on her. This must be where David gets it from. So Shaw's cleaning herself up and she makes her decision. She's going to go for stupid Holloway. She got the ring and she sees it. It reminds her of him. So she's going. She takes a bunch of pain meds, straps on a suit, and in comes the captain, Yannick. You know what this place is? The Engineers. This ain't their home. It's a military installation.
Mm-hmm.
Shit.
And we saw the map. They were headed to Earth.
Mm-hmm. They put it here because they're not stupid enough to make weapons of mass destruction on their own doorstep. That's what everything in those vases is. They made it here. It got out. It turned on them. The end. Let's go home. So Shaw tells them there's still one alive. Don't you want to know what they have to say? And Yannick does not give a shit. He's like, no, I do not care. Let's go home.
Oh, I agree with him 1,000%. I'm gone. I mean, you can't be gone, I guess, because Wayland's going to go out, but they could leave without him. They could have just left without him.
I mean, they do, essentially.
Yeah, they do, but they don't get very far.
No, they do not. The hero, Yannick. He's like, no matter what happens, hey, this is it. Him being the hero. No matter what happens down there, none of that stuff is coming home. I'll do whatever I have to make sure that it does not happen. So Vickers shows up in Wayland's room, and he is surprised to see her. He says she's always tried to stop him. She's got a very negative attitude. She should have stayed home, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I'm not going to sit in some boardroom while you fly around outer space looking for aliens. She's like, a king has his reign and then he dies. That is the natural order of things.
And in that scene, there's like a posse behind her. There's like 4 other guys. The math doesn't work out for 17.
Stormtroopers.
They're just there. They said the number 17, maybe it meant to be the 17 that were actually doing the investigation, and they're not counting the rest of the crew, but
tending to the ship. Yeah.
17. These guys don't count. Maybe they're androids. I don't know. But there's like a lot. They just come rolling in those suits out of nowhere. Where do these guys come from?
They got $1 trillion to put in that ship. It's like the hidden place under Disney where they got those secret valleys they can go through and no one can see them.
And what do they know about this trip?
Yeah.
Are they filling them in about this?
No, they just got to sit there while David cleans Wayland's feet sores. She goes to kiss Wayland's hand and he pulls it away. He hates her. He's like, is there anything else? And she goes, no, father.
Oh.
So that's it. Wayland is her dad.
Or the person who created her.
Or the person who created her like her created David, yes. We cut to David, who walks in the room where Shaw is standing in her suit, and he goes, I didn't think you had it in you. Sorry, poor choice of words.
Oh,
slam dunk. Dunking all over these humans.
Zingers. David's bringing zingers.
If when the machines take over, they're this witty and sharp, I'm all for it. She asks what David's going to do when Wayland isn't around to program him anymore. He's like, I suppose I'll finally be free. Doesn't every child want their parents dead? So both of his kids hate Wayland. They both hate him. And she's like, I didn't want my parents dead.
And David, I certainly think, I'm so sorry.
No, it was that David just laughs in her face and walks away.
I certainly think that line alludes to David also wanting the last engineer to be dead. Like maybe he wants Wayland to have his moment, but he wants to kill him off so that he can take their place. So every kid wants their parent dead so they can replace them. In that way, he wants to replace the engineers. He's already experimented once. We know he will again in another movie. I think he's going there hoping that they can wipe out that last engineer and everyone else, and he can start to create life.
Oh, and so he could be the new engineer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and that's what he's saying. Like, Wayland will be gone, we'll all be gone, we wipe it out, and I'm going to take their place. And I think I never thought that before until you see what happens in the later film, and that scene had different weight to me for that.
We're gonna have to talk about that other film. I think you're definitely more of a fan of it than I am. It'll be a fun podcast, definitely. But we got to do it because we got to get to Alien, and there's only one way to get there chronologically, if we're doing it correctly.
You laid out this plan of chronological.
Yeah, this is my own damn fault. It's my own damn
go
fault.
forward with it.
I'm gonna dedicate myself to it. It's all right. So they all head to the structure, and David tells Wayland to take off his helmet because the air is breathable. And Shaw's like, wait, we don't know if Holloway died because the air is contaminated. And David's like, it's not. She's like, how the hell do you know? And all he does is give her a look.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I killed him, bitch.
Hmm.
She's not, but she don't say nothing. Like,
Mm-mm.
she's just like, oh, no way. So Shaw walks into the room full of canisters, and she's reporting it back to the ship. There are thousands of canisters. The captain is pissed. He looks at the map and notices, there it is. They're inside of a ship. And this is the same ship, I believe, that they walk into in Alien 1, right?
Or
not like the same style of ship, not
yes.
on, yeah. So
the derelict. Yep.
I thought it was the ship until you did let us know that we're not on LV, the correct LV planet.
426, moon.
So they're inside of, yeah, I'm learning.
There'll be a quiz. There's going to be an LV quiz.
I'm gonna fail.
Later
I didn't even
on.
know it was a different LV until you said it in this podcast.
And we're a few weeks away from Alien Day, which is April 26th. So we'll see what cool stuff they put out that day.
I mean, we're gonna get to Alien eventually. It's definitely gonna be far after that, but
yeah,
it's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming. So they're all inside of the ship. David's walking them into the room with all the pods. He's figured out that they were in the process of leaving before things went wrong. They were coming to Earth. Why? Because sometimes to create, one must destroy. So he walks over to the pod with the living engineer. David opens up the pod, and the engineer begins waking up. It's like Neo when he comes out of the thing in the Matrix with all the wires in him and stuff, and they're like unplugging as he gets up. It looks really damn cool.
Yeah. And they said in production that the engineers were supposed to be kind of like a style-wise a cross between the Statue of Liberty, Da Vinci's David sculpture, and Elvis.
Okay. Yeah, the lips. Yeah. That's pretty funny. It looks around, it steps out, and Shaw starts immediately barking at it. You know, where are you from? What's in your cargo? You made it here. It was meant for us. Why do you hate us? What did we do wrong? And Wayland's like, what is this woman doing? Shut her up. So this dude just hits her in the stomach, her weak spot. They're just like, this quickly, hit her in the stomach. Shut her up. So David begins talking to the engineer, I guess in its native tongue.
Yes, and I think there's subtitles that you could pick up where they actually tell you what they're saying. I didn't look it up. I kind of like it better not knowing.
I was going to say, what does David say to him? Like, kill everybody in this room except me? Or like, I don't know. What is, like, I wanted to know what he
So somebody send it to us.
Yeah, let us know at InMadnessPod. I should have looked that up. But it pets him. He says it and it pets him. And he looks delighted. And then it picks him up and it rips his goddamn head off. And then it smacks Wayland with the head.
With the head. It's instantly a weapon.
And then it starts whooping everybody's ass. All 118 of these 17 crew members. So Shaw runs away, okay? Help me with this. Wayland, dying, says there's nothing. Does he say that?
I think so. Yeah.
There's nothing. I don't know. What is that? I don't know what he means. And then David says, I know. Have a good journey, sir.
Maybe he's seeing his death. You know, when people say they pass away, they'll see a white light or they'll see something. Maybe he's hoping he'd see something at that moment. And there's nothing.
It's like the computer program just shutting down.
Yeah.
That's it. Wayland dies right there on the spot. Vickers is on the ship, and she's like, it's time to go home. She got her wish. Her dad's dead. The engineer opens up the structure in the middle of the room, and there it is. The big, what is it, gun or controlling device?
I think that's be the navigation
the
system
navigation system.
for this ship. And the suit wraps around him. It's really cool how that happens. And as soon as he locks into that, that's when it starts to kick in.
And that is the image we see, not the same one exactly, but that is what we see, what they see in Alien 1 when they find the ship.
And that's also why it looked bigger, because he's already big with this weird suit around him, and then this other suit comes around him, very biomechanical, looks alive almost.
I dig it. It doesn't look very comfortable. It doesn't look like he has much room to wiggle around in that goddamn thing, but
yeah, I hope it's not a long flight. Like,
I mean, they better be flying through the light years like nothing. I'm sure it did take them 4 years of hypersleep to get to where they had to get to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. How do they navigate this ship? Maybe they have to be tapped in. Maybe, I mean, this ship is, originally designed by Giger. It's very biomechanical. It's very natural looking in a lot of ways. Because that suit wraps around him and it looks very organic, do they operate the ship rather than just be, it's like a mental thing, or they're tapped into it biologically and they're operating in that way? Maybe they go into some sort of trance or something. I don't know. It's pretty cool.
So he's getting ready to take off in this ship, and our Captain Yannick notices the ship's about to take off. Shaw begins running back, but the floor is opening underneath her from the engineer's ship about to take off.
That's so cool looking too.
The way it opens.
Yeah, it's so cool.
And she's just running like hopscotch, jumping from plate to plate.
Not sure how she made it. Not sure how she could be jumping all over the place right now.
With her gut. Yeah. Don't understand it, but more they're trying to make Ripley, her and Ripley going head to head, kicking each other's ass. Who's the tougher chick? She tells the Prometheus, the ship is taking off and you have to stop it. If you don't, there's not going to be a home to go back to. It's carrying death and it's headed for Earth. So Yannick's like, this is not a warship. And she's like, I know, but you said no matter what, it can't make it back. So you have to stop it. So Vickers is like, nah, we're going home. And Yannick's like, get in the escape pod if you want to live, because we're not going home.
He makes that decision for the other two guys too, and they're on board.
He told them they could go.
Yeah.
They had a little touching moment where they were like, you're a shit pilot. You can't do this by yourself.
Yeah, I'm gone. I'm sorry. Figure it out.
Yo, that's it. You're in the pod with Vickers, huh?
Yeah.
If he's a robot or not.
Yeah, I'm in that pod.
I got 2 years of lives. Yeah.
Yeah, they said you could have, you have enough food and drink and everything you need in that pod. I'm in there.
Oh my Lord. That's funny. That's super funny. She runs to the pod as Yannick's getting ready to set up the ship for impact. Her life support pod pops out of the ship, crash lands. Yannick and his boys hit the ion propulsion. It launches the Prometheus like a bullet. Hands up. Boom. Hits the engineer's ship, explodes in midair, and it comes crashing back down to Earth. And while it's crashing, it ends up rolling over and crushing Vickers.
And I wonder if the engineer is dead. It's still in a pretty good piece.
Well, I mean, that's yeah. I think that's who comes running in at a later moment.
Come on, I'm trying to give people. We ruined the whole movie. I was trying to give him one more moment.
The setup, I was like, do you really not know?
No, I was trying to give him one moment that we didn't ruin completely.
A little tease, yeah.
And I didn't give you a heads up on it, so you just thought I lost my mind.
I was like, what the hell?
What's wrong with this guy?
The ship falls and somehow lands right on top of Shaw without crushing her. She's got 2 minutes of oxygen left. She hauls ass over to Vickers' pod. And it still has the med machine in it with the trilobite or the trilo, whatever. The gigantic tentacle squid monster that she gave birth to. It's huge now. It's grown exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
And then David messages Shaw with just his head. You need to get out of there immediately. He's coming for you. And
Who?
And my stupid ass. Here comes the engineer that I guess survived. Thanks for keeping me on the edge of my seat. I'm such a dumbass. So Shaw immediately goes, die, and hits the hatch, and it opens up her big tentacle baby's door, and it grabs the engineer and shoots a tentacle down its throat. And basically it humps the engineer until it passes out.
Right. And this fight scene between the two of them is amazing. It's part practical, part CGI. And they do an amazing job. They built this trilobite, but they just used it kind of as like a stand-in. This is one of the things that Stranger Things probably borrows some stuff from, for sure.
It's got a bunch of mouths. It's got the things that come out of it and pull the head in like rubber bands.
Yeah.
So dope. But then it gets the best of the engineer. So Shaw's outside crying, and then David's head messages her again. Without me, you will never get out of here. It's not the only ship. There are many others, and I can operate them. So Shaw's hauling back to the ship. She goes and grabs David's head, but not before getting back her cross that he took from her.
Mm-hmm.
She puts it around her neck, and David's like, you still believe after all this? And she's like, can you use their navigation? And he's like, yeah, I can find a path back to Earth. And she's like, I don't want to go to Earth. I want to go to where they came from. Can you do that? And he's like, what do you hope to achieve by doing that? They created us, and then they wanted to kill us. I want to know why. David's like, it's irrelevant. Does it matter why they changed their minds? And she's like, yeah. And he doesn't get it. And she says that's because he's a robot. She puts his head in a bag, apologizes. They have a nice little cute moment, lowers it to the ground. And then we see a shot of another ship taking off. Final report of the vessel Prometheus. The ship and her entire crew are gone. If you are receiving this transmission, make no attempt to come to its point of origin. There is only death here now, and I am leaving it behind. It's New Year's Day, 2094. I am Elizabeth Shaw, last survivor of the Prometheus, and I'm still searching.
New Year's Day. Baby New Year's.
New Year, there it is. Christmas movie.
Christmas movie.
The ship blasts off into space. Cut to black. The end, sort of. Is that message Elizabeth Shaw left the message that Ripley's ship picks up?
No.
It's a different message.
It's a different message. Yeah.
Okay. You know this to be a fact?
Well, I mean, it's a different location.
I guess, yeah.
So, yeah, it
right.
has to be. I think that part of the script is probably some leftovers from when they originally were going to make it LV 426.
I like how it ended similar to Alien with Ripley's message as well.
Yep.
So then you think it's over, but then it's not. Because we cut back to these blinking shots of our giant engineer and his body's fidgeting. This large spike pops out of his chest, and this black xenomorph creature just pours out onto the floor. There's all these guts and the heart beating, and everything is on the floor. It slowly gets up, and looks like what we got here is a little baby alien xenomorph in its like first form.
So they call this one the Ultramorph.
Okay.
It's coming from the engineer. So it's not exactly a xenomorph because it's not crossed with the same DNA, but from the engineer. And they call this the Deacon. They refer to this in the production as the Deacon. So we get that.
Screams and the mouth pops out, and that's what you're waiting for.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to black, and that's it. The end. Prometheus.
That's it. And so we do get our complete. So our life cycle here is the engineer. So we get the black goo, and Shaw gives birth to the baby, the trilobite.
Yeah, I wrote down a little bit of a breakdown. So it wasn't the alien that was killing the engineers. They were just dying, I guess, from exploding or whatever. when they got the black goo. Like they would just
Probably from the black goo. What happened to Fifield than
So then David put it in Hathaway. Hathaway got Shaw pregnant.
right.
She birthed the octopus
Yeah,
creature.
trilobite, and then
The trilobite mated with the engineer,
mhm.
and that gave us our ultramorph.
Yeah, the
whatever it is.
Deacon. Yep. So an early version of Xenomorph.
Very cool. I loved this movie. It was very polarizing because I loved this movie and I went to other people who loved Alien who I thought would love this movie and they were like, I hated it. So I don't understand how you can dislike this movie.
I think what bothered people is what we talked about earlier with the space jockey.
Yeah.
And kind of giving an answer to that they didn't want to hear. And there's certainly a lot of Lovecraftian horror to this in a lot of ways. Obviously went through the plot of At the Mountains of Madness, but in other ways it's not, because it's very much a menu, an explanation. We did this, we went to there's parts of this movie where they just directly explain to us, hey, the Yannick's like they went there, and sometimes it's to kill it, wipe it out, make life, kill it, let's get out of here. So they explained a lot, and I think a lot of people had it built up in their heads over 30 years. Ridley Scott's going to return to this movie, and we're going to get a whole mess of xenomorphs running around. And I think they all forgot that Ridley Scott is the filmmaker he is, because if you think he's going in one direction, he goes in a completely different direction. And that's what makes what he does so amazing. That's how these movies, people grab onto these movies for years and years and years. Alien was a success at the box office. Blade Runner was not, but years later people gravitate towards it, and it's a huge thing for a lot of people. And I think Ridley played with that. They went, it's not a direct prequel. We're not going to see how that ship ended up there. It's going to be similar enough, but we want to make a new story, and we want to center our story on the creation of man instead. And I think that kind of annoyed people. I'll partly say I think it annoyed people because of Aliens, and we'll get to that at a later date.
Yeah, that's why I got to do the sequel to this, because you got to do the sequel to Alien.
Which I
give it the take.
Spoiler alert, I don't hate Aliens at all.
But you're also not a huge fan of it.
I'm not a huge fan, but but it's a different type of film. But we've got time to talk about that. But
we want to know what you thought about this friggin' movie, Prometheus. Did you see it in theaters? Do you have it on Blu-ray? Do you watch it constantly? Do you think it's a Christmas movie? Let us know on the socials at InMadnessPod. We're also at InMadnessPod@gmail.com. Also on YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment. What else? Did you get all your gnarly bits in?
I got all the gnarly bits in. I threw a lot in the beginning because I knew there was a lot to talk about about the film later on. I'm at Vertebrae33 on all the socials. I just appreciate anyone listening to us, being involved. It's amazing to do this and get to talk about these movies that we love so much, and have people listen to it, comment, enjoy it. I've heard from quite a few people that say they're just having a good time listening to it, and that's amazing. That's, just a beautiful thing. And if you've got any connections for Prometheus or Alien Universe to Blade Runner, send them my way, so when I can't sleep at night, I can just be laying in bed thinking about
this. Is like in Seven being Gotham City.
But I appreciate it so much. Do you want to tease our next episode?
Oh, man. Episode 9. Do we say the director? I want to jump into a whole series of movies from this director.
I don't know if we say the director. That might be too clear of a sign of what we're doing.
It rhymes with 9. And it's episode 9. Just like we did 7 for 7. What could we possibly do with 9?
Well, awesome. Thank you very much, everybody. Take care.
This has been another great episode of In Madness Pod.